Welcome to The Right Focus, a podcast for writers, newbies and veterans, and everyone in between. We're hosted by M.A. Lee with the assistance of Remy Black and Edie Rooms, all from Writers Inc. books. Our focus is productivity, process, craft, and tools. Each episode lasts as long as it takes to fix a quick dinner, drive a short commute, or take a brisk walk. Resources and links are in the show notes. Visit us at therightfocus.blogspot.com. Now, on to this week's episode. Love, betrayal, death. We've discussed these three subjects in the story songs and other recent poems, including Christina Rossetti's particular version of false love and twisted betrayal, lust that isn't love, summer friends abandoning her in her self-exile, her false love leaving her to face her trouble alone. When we've endured betrayal, our memories of that traitor are as a monster. Monsters need not have venom-dripping fangs and wicked sharp talons. Many are deceptively attractive. They feed on our emotions, first our love for them, then our clinging need. They grip us tightly until we feel bound to them. Then they rake us with clawing words that undermine our self-esteem and our personalities until we are weak and dependent on them. Worse than those monsters are all the monsters in our own selves, the ones who want to stay with that dragon who keeps so fair a cave, as Shakespeare put it. We never expect the real monster. We certainly never anticipate the monster in us that welcomes that situation. Long before the Black Widows and femme fatales of detective fiction, we have poems about ladies who prey upon the unsuspecting. As we near All Hallows Eve, we look for stories about monsters. The horror genre gives us unreal monsters who are nearly impossible to kill, so we pit them against each other, a la Alien versus Predator. The thriller genre gives us over-the-top monsters like Hannibal Lecter. We have romantasy monsters, the worst of which are vegetarian vampires that sparkle, and werewolves robbed of their predatory instinct to survive, trolls who run coffee houses, and witches who solve murders. Bending genre tropes can be fun and very satisfying, for multiple readers are always looking for the next new thing. Yet the best monsters never lose their monsterdom, if that's a word. And the best of these never seem like monsters until we fall into their clutches. Heinrich Heine wrote of a dangerous beauty, deceptively alluring, distractingly tricky. That femme fatale, so alluring to unwary men who react only with their eyes, is a common trope now and far into the past, the recent past stretching all the way to the antiquity of the earliest Greeks. The enticing yet monstrous female crowds into myths from across the world. The poem we'll explore for writing notes today was written in 1827 by the famous German poet Heinrich Heine, 1797 to 1856. Unlike other poets of his time, he didn't have a romanticized sentimentality and often mocked that view with irony and satire. He even opens his poem The Lorelai with a sly nudge at that classic romanticism. I know not whence it rises, this thought so full of woe, but a tale of times departed haunts me and will not go. The air is cool and it darkens, and calmly flows the Rhine. The mountain peaks are sparkling in the sunny evening time. The romanticization of the past of sorrow, here he says, let me manipulate you. Then he describes nature so beautiful, seemingly so benevolent. Wait, How could our image of wonderful nature be better? Let me give you a luscious lady to lust for. And yonder sits a fair maiden, the fairest of the fair. With gold is her garment glittering, and she combs her golden hair. Heine, in 1827, is not yet 30, yet he had already launched into his controversial writings and would soon move from Germany to Paris for more political freedom and less censorship. His poem, The Lorelai, offers us a passive monster who knows that she need do nothing to bring people to their deaths, crashed and drowned beneath her rock. That rock's location can be visited. It's the Auf der Lorelei of St. Gorhusen in Germany, a high, craggy rock above a bend of the Rhine River. The rock has always been the site of shipwrecks. Water against the slate rock creates a murmuring echo, and legend credited the echo to dwarves mining or sirens singing. For how else would people know of danger yet still come to their ruination? The story originated in a ballad by Clemens Brentano. Betrayed by her lover, a lovely lady bewitches men and kills them. The bishop sentences her to a nunnery. Accompanied by 3 knights, she spies the high rock above the river, begs the knights to let her climb it, yet falls to her death. Heine doesn't really draw upon Brentano's ballad, but harkens back to the local myth of a siren, luring men to their deaths with her singing. With a golden comb she combs it, and a wild song singeth she, that melts the heart with a wondrous and powerful melody. She's a siren, like the bird women that Odysseus and his crew encountered. She sings so beautifully, all to bring them ashore so she can eat them and stand on their bones, and her next song will reach farther into the water. The boatman fills his bosom with a nameless longing move, Heine writes. He sees not the gulfs before him. His gaze is fixed above. The sailor, the boatman, like Odysseus, hears the song and would participate willingly in his own destruction. Odysseus prevented this by being tied to the mast. The poor river boatman goes right to his death, till over boat and boatman the Rhine's deep waters run, and this, with her magic singing, the Lorelei has done. I only know the poem in translation, so we can't discuss much of the structure except to say we have 6 4-line stanzas with a rhyme scheme of ABCB. Here are our lessons for all writers, with a bit of speculation first. Like most stories, the public overlooks the intended evil because we're caught by beauty. How can someone so beautiful cause deliberate murder? It's the same question we turn into different spheres. How can ideas so beneficial cause so much destruction? How can this life-saving treatment cause such devastation? How can something so desired create unhappiness? How can what we want be so detrimental? How can our dreams warp the greater reality? When we romanticize some person or idea or thing, we willfully blind ourselves to the evil that arises. For a lesson on this, we need look no farther than Romeo and Juliet. Oh, such a tragic story of 2 great lovers. Well, Romeo's a murderer twice over, both premeditated. Having spent years with fickle-minded young people, I doubt their love would have survived a season. We can write of this. We can mask evil with beauty, with outward benevolence or kindness. Heine uses this reality, willful blindness to danger, caused by willful focus on the unattainable, a lust, as it were, that overcomes our rational and moral senses. That becomes a common theme, and those caught in a romantic dream miss it. Here's our second lesson for all writers. We writers do not often see common themes running through our own works, not until we've written several complete texts. Whether intended or not, that theme works into all of our writing. We've bled it out onto the page, intentional or wholly unintentionally. Once we spot a common theme, we can choose to play with it or take steps to hide it, should it reveal our greatest vulnerabilities. Themes are not often obvious and stated, but they definitely are not truly hidden. They are universal and not tied to one specific work. How many of Shakespeare's plays have the common theme of deception has extreme consequences, with the side theme about the many types of deception, including lies of commission and omission. That theme wraps around and entwines with events and entangles characters in multiple plays. Teachers often fumble lessons about themes and thesis, its brother in the nonfiction world. Theme and thesis are not hard to understand. Subject is a single word, like fodder. Topic gives a subject a direction, cannon fodder. Now we know we're talking about war, not agriculture or animal husbandry. Turn the topic into a complete sentence with a subject and its verb, and we have theme or thesis. Leaders with no strategic knowledge turn followers into cannon fodder. Whatever we write based on that theme or thesis can take many forms: fiction, nonfiction, poetry, plays. I've strayed far from our starting point of Heine and a non-romanticized view of monsters who entice in order to distract their prey. We can find many examples in diverse fields: the Venus flytrap in botany, and that fish with the light in piscatology, and honey traps in crime, and sirens in mythology. Which brings us to our third and final tip. Look into common mythologies, not just for descriptive comparisons, but to work these monsters deliberately into stories and poems, into nonfiction as you explain problems and examine solutions. Myth is a rich source, especially the earlier myths where the monsters took fantastical form, not just those where people were behaving monstrously, like Modred, who killed his father Arthur because Modred wanted not only the kingship but also his stepmother, Guinevere. No, your true-to-life characters will not be the bird women sirens or the swan-like sisters who knew past, present, and future that Perseus had to encounter. Some scholars think the gray women knew here, there, and everywhere. These monsters can be allies as much as villains. The Gorgon Medusa, also the Perseus myth, Calypso and Circe of Odysseus, were menaces until they became allies. While Odysseus encountered other monsters like the giant tree cannibals and Polyphemus the Cyclops, and Jason and the Argonauts fought Talus the iron-strong man, and fire-breathing bulls, and the dragon-teeth men. Have you ever noticed that you can tilt your head sideways, apply a little creative logic, and see these monsters as actual people, as if their strangeness is a metaphor? And have you ever noticed that most heroes had to battle female monsters? Ever noticed how boys and men, young and old, will fight, then be friends? Not so women. We never forget a grudge. That's the reason the Greeks placed a woman as the god of memory. Zeus's hounds of hell, that he sent as a curse upon a prophet, were the Harpies, bird women. And Nemesis, in charge of the divine justice, retribution, and revenge. For when people refused or were too scared to punish evildoers, she was a goddess as well. Women never forget. We never let go. And we definitely enjoy our revenge. And on that fourth tip for all writers, we'll end this episode. In the next, we have another deceptive monsters. Until then, write on. Every writer is after memorable writing, whatever will strengthen our words and ideas so they haunt our audience. We want our audience to return again and again to our writing, either to recapture that original impact or to puzzle out a question that wasn't answered, capture our audience, and they stay with our writing to the end, satisfy our audience, and they seek more of our writing. This is our goal. Win-win, us and them. Our series, Fall into Poetry, would seem to appeal only to poets, but that's a surface glance. We writers can learn from any writing style, poetry teaching fiction, dramas teaching nonfiction, any mix-up we can contemplate. Join the Right Focus all through autumn as we examine great poems that teach a multitude of lessons for all writers. Thanks for listening to The Right Focus, a podcast for writers at all levels, hosted by Emma Lee from Writers Inc. Books, assisted by Renee Black and Edie Runes. Our focus is productivity, process, craft, and tools. Music is licensed through Audio Jungle, called Background Music Loop. Its creator is Alexander Polishchuk, known on Audio Jungle as Plastic 3. The music comes in different iterations. Show notes and resource links for this and other episodes can be found at therightfocus.blogspot.com. Write to us at linkbooks@aol.com when you have questions, comments, and speculations. We will try to answer you as quickly as possible. By the way, we will not mind your email address. That's rude. If you find value in our content, share with your writing friends or write a review. We're small beans here without the advertising budget of the big peeps, and you can make a difference. And whatever occurs, write on.